The first thing anyone remembered from that day was the silence. Not the kind that comes before dawn or during prayer, this was the silence of something vast blotting out the sky, swallowing the wind itself. At 7:13 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, the sun dimmed. Over Washington, D.C., the clouds turned metallic, reflecting an alien light that wasn't sunlight. People stopped mid-stride, staring upward at a shape that made no sound, no motion, but stretched from horizon to horizon, a ship the size of a continent, gliding silently above the Capitol. Colonel Evan Marshall, U.S. Air Force, watched from the Pentagon's rooftop as the shadow moved over the city. His phone vibrated with non-stop alerts, NORAD reports, radar pings, emergency coordination signals, all variations of the same truth: it's here. They just appeared, asked Major Lisa Grant, his adjutant, her voice trembling as the black mass eclipsed the sky. No. They didn't just appear. Evan's jaw tightened. They wanted us to see them come. The first communication came minutes later, not a voice, but a projection. Every device with a screen, from cell phones to the massive jumbotron in Times Square, suddenly froze and flickered to life with the same image: a humanoid figure cloaked in silver light, eyes like molten gold. Humanity. You have trespassed beyond your sphere. You have taken what was not yours. We are the Falrain Dominion. You will kneel, or you will burn. The voice wasn't sound, it vibrated in the skull, bypassing ears and language. Children cried. Adults clutched their heads, blood dripping from their noses as their brains struggled to interpret the telepathic frequency. And then, as if to punctuate their ultimatum, the ship fired. A beam of energy, pure white and silent, struck somewhere in Virginia. When the light cleared, Richmond was gone, replaced by a crater of molten glass. The world changed in that instant. By nightfall, 50 cities were gone. Beijing, Moscow, Cairo, Rio, Berlin, each erased by light. Satellites fell from orbit like burning birds. Militaries scrambled, governments fractured, and somewhere, under the ruins of NORAD Command in Colorado Springs, surviving officers tried to build a plan from the ashes. That's where Evan Marshall ended up. The war room was little more than a bunker carved into rock, lit by emergency floodlights and powered by backup generators. Every monitor flickered with static-laced feeds of chaos: cities burning, skies on fire, humanity screaming into the void. Lisa Grant was there, too, uniform torn, hair matted with soot. They're not even trying to occupy, she said bitterly. Just cleansing. Evan leaned over a map filled with red markers, impact sites. That's what worries me. They're not exterminating us. They're testing us. A young technician nearby looked up, trembling. Testing, sir? Yeah, Evan muttered. Like a scientist poking a specimen to see if it fights back. At 0200 hours, something shifted. Through intercepted transmissions from destroyed orbital satellites, NASA managed to catch a glimpse of a smaller craft, not one of the massive warships, but a shuttle. It had descended near the wreckage of Cheyenne Mountain. They sent a team. Evan volunteered to lead it. Sir, Lisa said, strapping her rifle, we're not even sure it's empty. I know. He loaded his weapon, checking the magazine. But if it's a scout ship, we might find something we can use. They set out into the night, 6 soldiers, armored, silent, the mountain winds howling over the smoldering ruins. The air still tasted of ozone and ash. The once mighty NORAD entrance was a charred maw in the rock, smoke curling from the melted steel doors. Inside, beneath twisted metal and burned electronics, they found it, the alien craft, half buried, its hull still glowing faintly blue. It pulsed like it was alive. The moment they approached, the craft spoke. Not aloud, directly into their minds. Human command presence detected. Identify. Evan froze. You can understand me? We can understand all. You are the leader. You will deliver message. What message? Your resistance is noted. Your extinction will proceed at dawn. Lisa raised her rifle instinctively. You arrogant son of a... Wait, Evan interrupted, stepping closer. Who are you? Why attack us? You spread beyond your world. You touched the void. The void belongs to the Thalrain. The void belongs to no one, Evan said, voice low and steady. We looked into the stars because we dreamed, not because we wanted war. The voice was silent for a long time. Then, almost mockingly, dreams end in fire. And the craft self-destructed, a flash of blue light that knocked them all off their feet. When Evan woke, he was in a medical tent. Lisa sat beside him, bruised but alive. Command's gone, she said quietly. They hit Denver, too. The president's missing. Evan looked around, a sea of wounded soldiers, crying civilians, the smell of antiseptic and despair. How many of us left? He asked. Lisa hesitated. Maybe 5 million. Maybe less. Silence. Then Evan stood, wincing from the pain in his ribs, and said, then we stop surviving and start fighting. Lisa looked up at him, eyes hollow. With what? We can't even reach their ships. Evan pointed toward the mountain. With what's left of that thing? I saw its core before it blew, some kind of fusion matrix. If we can salvage it, maybe we can reverse engineer a counter-weapon. Her expression hardened, a spark of defiance returning. That's suicide. Yeah, Evan said grimly. But so is doing nothing. By the next morning, word spread through the remnants of the U.S. military, a colonel in Colorado had found a way to fight back. Civilians started gathering in hidden camps. Engineers, scientists, hackers, everyone left who could still stand. The Thalrain kept burning cities, but something new began appearing on human frequencies, coded transmissions, scattered phrases of hope. Project Phoenix. Marshall's Resistance. The human who refused to kneel. And for the first time since the invasion began, the Thalrain ships hesitated. Because somewhere, in the ashes of a dead world, a single human voice had whispered a promise. You want war? Then see your worlds reduced to ashes. By late February, the surviving fragments of military command had merged into a single underground network, Project Phoenix, led unofficially by Colonel Evan Marshall. They operated out of what used to be the Denver sewer tunnels, now reinforced with scavenged steel and powered by stolen alien cores. The air was always damp, the hum of generators constant. On the walls hung maps made of torn canvas and ash-smeared paper, tracking the movements of Thalrain warships across the globe. Above ground, Earth was a graveyard. Below, humanity plotted revenge. Lisa Grant entered the command chamber, wiping soot from her face. Transmission from the Baltic sector, she said. Our people hit one of their walkers, downed it with modified EMPs. Lost 20 men doing it, but they got a piece of its drive core. Evan looked up from a console glowing with faint blue light, alien tech wired crudely into human systems. We'll take the win, he said. Tell them to ship it to us through the underground routes. She hesitated. They might not make it. Thalrain are sweeping the whole corridor. They're rounding up survivors, taking them alive. He frowned. Alive? Why? Lisa swallowed. Intel says they're experimenting. Trying to learn how we resist their neural commands. Evan turned back to the glowing interface, eyes cold. Then we'll show them exactly how. That night, deep beneath the city ruins, Evan and his engineers gathered around the alien fragment they had salvaged weeks earlier from Cheyenne Mountain. Its surface was crystalline, shifting in color as if alive. Every few seconds, it pulsed with faint energy, lighting the room in ghostly hues. Dr. Nathan Keller, formerly of NASA's Propulsion Division, hunched over the core, his fingers twitching nervously. You realize, he muttered, if I'm wrong about this frequency, we'll vaporize half the mountain. Evan folded his arms. Then let's hope you're right. Keller adjusted a set of makeshift electrodes, feeding power from the captured Thalrain battery. The lights flickered. The air smelled like burning metal. Then a hum. The crystal flared, then stabilized, forming a holographic pattern above the table. Not a display, not words, something deeper, a visual language. Lisa stepped closer. What is it? Keller stared, eyes wide. It's a memory. The hologram shifted again, and the image of a planet appeared. Black oceans. Twin moons. Towering structures like spires of glass and bone. Evan's heart pounded. That's not Earth. No, Keller said, voice trembling. It's theirs. The projection unfolded like a story. The Thalrain world, proud, shining, cruel, was shown under siege. A fleet of smaller, angular ships bombarded their cities. Energy weapons lit the sky. The attackers were not human, they were something else, reptilian, scaled, furious. Lisa frowned. They were attacked first? Evan nodded slowly. And they won. Looks like they annihilated their enemies and claimed their technology. Keller looked uneasy. But why show us this? The answer came from the core itself. A voice, faint, broken, feminine, echoed through the bunker. If you hear this, know that the Thalrain were not born conquerors. They were made. Their leaders bound to the will of something greater, a hive intelligence born of war. Was their queen. Evan's blood ran cold. We burned the stars in fear. You will burn them in anger. Beware what wakes when vengeance speaks. The light faded. Silence filled the bunker again. Lisa whispered, "What the hell was that?" Keller stared at the dead core, his hands shaking. "A ghost," he murmured. "And a warning." Hours later, Evan stood alone at the edge of the surface ruins. The air was bitter cold. Snow mixed with ash, blanketing what had once been Denver. The Thalrain ships hovered far above immense black silhouettes against a blood-red sky. Lisa joined him, her breath fogging. "You really think we can win?" Evan didn't answer right away. "No," he said finally. "But we can make them lose." She smirked faintly. "That's close enough." A rumble broke the silence, the sound of distant engines. A convoy approached through the shattered highway, headlights piercing the gloom. It was the Baltic team, or what was left of them. 3 trucks, half-burnt, dragging a container of alien tech. As they rolled in, one of the soldiers stumbled out, Corporal Adrian Walsh, face pale and eyes wide. "Sir," he gasped, "we found something inside the drive core." Evan frowned. "Something?" Walsh nodded, shaking. "A body. Human. They brought it inside." The figure was encased in translucent material, suspended as if in sleep. Male, mid-30s, dressed in the tattered remnants of a flight suit, the insignia still visible, NASA. Keller stared in disbelief. "That's impossible. All our astronauts died before they even reached orbit." Lisa whispered, "Maybe not all." Evan leaned closer, studying the frozen face. The name patch read J. Donovan. "John Donovan," Keller murmured. "He was part of the Helios Deep Space Probe project, disappeared 15 years ago." Evan's mind raced. If the Thalrain had him all this time. Keller nodded grimly. "Then they've been watching us for decades." When Donovan awoke, it was chaos. He gasped, coughed, convulsed, screaming words no one understood until the translator synced. "They're coming back," he rasped, eyes wild. "Not just the Thalrain. The thing behind them. It's waking." Evan grabbed his shoulder. "What thing? Talk to me, John." Donovan looked straight at him, and for a brief second, his pupils glowed faintly gold. "The Dominion isn't a race," he said. "It's a signal. A consciousness that spreads like infection. They're just its first victims." Keller stepped back in horror. "You're saying it's a parasite?" Donovan interrupted. "It finds advanced species, controls them, uses their bodies, their machines. And when they burn out, it finds another host." Lisa exhaled shakily. "So what's next? Us?" Donovan's voice lowered. "Unless you burn it first." The bunker erupted into frantic motion. Engineers began reworking the salvage tech, trying to harness the Thalrain energy cores into a weapon capable of disrupting the signal itself. The plan was insane, a pulse strong enough to fry neural links across orbit. They called it the Ashlight Cannon. Evan watched as teams worked through the night. For the first time, he saw something almost like hope, grim, battered, furious hope. Lisa approached, wiping sweat from her brow. When it's ready, what then? He looked at her. Then we send a message they can't ignore. At dawn, the ground trembled. The Thalrain fleet was moving again, descending over the Rockies. Massive ships formed a storm of light above, ready to deliver final extermination. Keller shouted from the console, "We've got power. Ashlight is primed." Evan stepped forward, gripping the trigger control, his reflection glowing in the energy chamber's light. "This one's for Richmond," he said quietly. "For everyone they thought they erased." He pulled the switch. The mountain roared. A beam of white fire erupted upward, cutting through clouds, slicing straight into the belly of the nearest Thalrain warship. The blast shattered it in two molten shards raining from the sky. For the first time in the war, the aliens bled. And all across the world, the resistance heard the message broadcast from Denver's frequency, a human voice, steady and cold. "We are not your cattle. We are not your prey. You wanted war? Then see your worlds reduced to ashes." The day the ashlight fired was the day the universe looked back. When the beam struck and the Thalrain warship split apart, the explosion could be seen from orbit, a wound of white flame against the darkness. For the first time since the invasion began, the human world roared. Radio channels that had been silent for weeks burst with screams of victory, disbelief, and rage. The Thalrain didn't retreat. They hesitated. And that hesitation was all humanity needed. Deep beneath the Rockies, the bunker trembled with aftershocks. Engineers cheered. Soldiers wept. And Evan Marshall just stood there, watching the live feed of a burning alien ship collapse through the atmosphere, scattering molten debris across the plains. Lisa Grant walked up beside him, face illuminated by the orange glow. "We actually did it," she whispered. Evan didn't answer. His eyes were fixed on the radar display, dozens more ships forming above, moving in coordinated patterns. "They're regrouping," he said quietly. "We hurt them. Now they'll come for the heart." Lisa swallowed. "Then we make sure there's something waiting for them when they do." For 3 days, the survivors worked like machines. Word spread across continents, the Denver strike had shattered the myth of Thalrain invincibility. Resistance cells from Europe, Africa, Asia all began to rise. Satellite ruins were repurposed into signal beacons. Submarines became mobile command posts. Old nuclear silos reopened, loaded with hybrid warheads fused with fragments of alien tech. For the first time since Earth burned, humanity wasn't running. It was hunting. But deep inside the Denver bunker, not all was victory. John Donovan, the resurrected astronaut, had grown weaker. The glow in his eyes had dimmed, his voice breaking into whispers mid-sentence. Dr. Keller watched over him. "The parasite's still in his neural system," he said. "It's not just using him, it's learning through him." Evan knelt beside Donovan's bed. "Can you control it?" Donovan coughed, blood on his lips. "No. But maybe I can guide it." Lisa frowned. "What do you mean?" Donovan looked up, eyes flickering faint gold. "If you want to end this, you can't just kill their ships. You have to strike the signal itself, the hive mind controlling them. It's anchored in orbit, feeding commands through subspace relays." Evan's pulse quickened. "You can locate it?" Donovan nodded weakly. "For a little while. But if I open the link, it'll see me, and it'll see you." Lisa crossed her arms. "That's suicide." Evan stood. "It's war." By the 5th day, the plan was ready. They would send a ship, barely patched together from scavenged alien wreckage and human engineering, into orbit carrying the Ashlight core. Its detonation at the source would disrupt the hive link permanently. Evan would lead the mission. Lisa tried to talk him out of it. "You're too valuable on the ground," she argued. "Let someone else go." He smiled faintly. "Name one person left who's been this much of a pain in their ass." She stared at him, then punched his arm lightly. "When you get back, I'm gonna kill you myself." Deal. Launch day was nothing like the spaceflights humanity used to celebrate. There were no cameras, no crowds, no speeches. Just a single launch silo hidden under layers of ash, snow, and wreckage. Donovan was connected to the ship's core through a neural uplink, his consciousness bridging human code with alien pathways. Keller monitored from below, his hands trembling as he adjusted the controls. Evan stepped into the cockpit, the Earthlight reflecting off his visor. How long until we breach orbit? Keller's voice came through the headset. 30 minutes, assuming the foul rain don't see you first. They will, Evan said. That's the point. The ascent was chaos. Alien interceptors screamed through the clouds, chasing the ship like metallic predators. Plasma fire rained down. Evan twisted the controls, every bone in his body rattling as the hull groaned. Come on, baby, he muttered through clenched teeth. Hold together. When the ship broke through the atmosphere, the sight was apocalyptic. Earth's surface a patchwork of glowing craters and storm-racked oceans. Above it hung the foul rain fleet, black titans blotting out the stars. And there, at the center of them all, was something larger, a construct like a black sun, pulsing with slow, rhythmic light. The Hive Core. Donovan's voice crackled through the link. That's it. The signal lives inside that structure. Hit it dead center. Evan set the coordinates. How long till detonation? 70 seconds once I initiate the charge. But listen, Donovan's voice broke with static. When the pulse fires, the link will collapse. Everything tied to the signal, foul rain ships, their weapons, even me, will burn out. Evan went still. You'll die. Donovan chuckled weakly. I already did 15 years ago. As the ship neared the Hive Core, it began to speak. Not in words, but in pressure, in whispers that clawed into Evan's thoughts. You are fire in the dark. You are small. You are dust. Why do you resist the inevitable? He gritted his teeth, shouting over the psychic noise. Because we remember. Because we feel. Because every name you erased still matters. You are nothing. Then fear nothing. He slammed the throttle. The ship plunged straight toward the core, the ashlight chamber beginning to glow white-hot. Inside the control deck, Donovan screamed as the signal fought him, his veins lighting up gold. Now, Marshall. Do it. Evan pressed the final command. The ashlight ignited. The explosion was silent in space. A sphere of white radiance blossomed from the core, expanding in every direction, pure energy laced with human fury. One by one, the foul rain ships flickered and fell apart, their hulls peeling away like bird paper. On Earth, people looked up to see streaks of fire crossing the sky, the remnants of a dying empire. In the Denver bunker, Lisa Grant stood on the surface, wind whipping through her hair, eyes reflecting the burning heavens. Keller stumbled beside her, tears in his eyes. Did they make it? Lisa watched the last of the falling lights fade. He made sure we did. Weeks passed. The ash began to settle. For the first time in months, the clouds parted, revealing a pale, healing sun. The foul rain were gone, every remaining ship lifeless, every drone silent. But in their wake, Earth was scarred beyond recognition. Lisa took command of what was left of Project Phoenix. She ordered the rebuilding of communication networks, the recovery of survivors, and the burial of the countless dead. And on the anniversary of the first attack, she stood at the crater where the ashlight had first fired. A monument of glass and stone now marked the spot. Etched into it were the words Evan Marshall had spoken before the final launch. You want war? Then see your worlds reduced to ashes. Lisa placed her hand on the monument. The wind howled through the ruins, carrying the faint scent of rain, clean, new. For a moment, she could almost hear Evan's voice in the distance, calm and defiant. We burned because we were human. And because we were human, we endured. She smiled through the tears. Rest easy, Colonel, she whispered. The sky's ours again. And above her, through the thinning clouds, the first stars of night began to shine, free, unclaimed, and waiting.